Now, at Smart Marine, we do sell backbones for drone fishing. If you don't know what a backbone is, with your rod and reel, with your braid, with braid, as I said before, braid doesn't stretch, but it does give you capacity and strength. But when you're connecting your hooks, you need it to connect it to something. So we use mono. In this case, we've got some of the NASCAM backbones here. And you need this, you need that little bit of stretch, but without it, you will lose fish. So invest in a backbone as well. On the East Coast, I sometimes use 6, but on the West, I will keep it to 3 hooks. I've been caught out too many times of having more fish than I should. And for me, it's harder to put back West Coast fish because they're quite big, some of them. So I just keep it simple. A question that someone asked me out Albany is, how do I minimize line twisting in backbones? It was actually a great question because he'd been fishing for a while. So what he's trying to say is every time he puts his hooks on the backbone and he takes that out and drops it, and when he winds in it, it keeps twisting like that. One way to minimize that is use the proper sinkers. Don't use light sinkers. If you're out on the West Coast, trust me when I say you need more than 10 ounces of sinker for the West Coast. I use 210s. I have no problems. On the East Coast, I would use 6 to 8 ounce, personally myself. But I use less hooks because it's easier for me to set the line. The more hooks you have, the more drag you have, and if you've got more tide, it's going to move it. Now the problem is when drone sinkers start to roll in the water, you use these little sinkers here. So it starts this line twisting. And it's a pain because you can't get rid of it sometimes. So one of the things I combat by doing that is have less hooks, heavier sinkers to help me set it. And then when I wind it up at the end of the day, I just don't go like this. I actually do 2 winds and I turn it. 2 winds and I turn it. If you don't do it, you're going to get line twist if you just keep it one way. But if you do 2 winds and turn it, you minimize line twisting. Now, another thing with line twisting is when you set your line out and you connect it to your drone, that line twist can also be quite high. And you don't want your drone propellers hitting that mono. So it's very important to tie the backbone onto your little spools, which we do sell here, properly, and that will minimize it, plus having the white sinkers. Now we use breakout sinkers for drone fishing. We've tried many sinkers over the years, but the breakout sinkers work the best. On the East Coast, I don't know if it's as brutal compared to the West Coast, but normally 2-3 ounce sinkers, rubber band together, works better than it was 6 ounce. Just to let you know. And I'll tell you why. Here's a 6, here's 2 3s. Now the only problem with that 1/6 is you only got 4 little wires hanging out there to stop it from rolling. Having 2 3s, which equals 6, we rubber band them together, gives me the 6 ounce, but it doubles the spike. Now it digs in there, it's easier to set. So I rubber band it by putting the rubber band through the loop and come over the top and double it. Just in case anyone wants to know why we use 2 instead of the 1 6 ounce. With those 2 10 ounce sinkers, I don't need to do that. They're strong enough as they are. Floats. So a few other people have asked us about, do you guys use floats when attaching to your hooks? So for instance, here's the hooks that we use and attach to our backbone. But some people want to use floats because in long lining, like kite fishing and kontiki, they use floats to keep the hook up above the water. So as the line goes out, the hook doesn't hit the rocks and you don't lose your bait. That's the idea of having the floats. Drone fishing is a different thing because your whole line's going over the water. It's not dragged through the water. I've tried to use floats, and then most of the time now I've tried not using floats. I haven't seen a difference, but my thinking about using floats is when you use one of these and you put it on the end of your hook and it's down the bottom, I find the bite rate, the closest hooks closest to the sinker get hit the most. So if I got 6 hooks, the first 2 are going to get hit by snappers the most. The other 2 are going to get hit by your trevallies and your kahawais. And maybe, yeah, the trevallies, the kahawais. So the snappers and your gooners are usually the bottom ones. But using one of these, I find it flaps around too much. And then I'm sure the old snapper's going to have a hard time trying to latch on it. But it does see the bait. So maybe a smaller version of that could work better than something bigger. But I'm still on the fence. I've got mates who use them all the time. They absolutely swear by it, but that's something you'll learn. As I said, this is an evolving industry with drone fishing. It's always evolving. I'm just giving you guidelines, and I'm trying to keep it safe for you. So now that when you guys go out and you start experiencing, some of you may use floats, some you might half them. You know, the first 2 I'll have 2 floats, the other 2 hooks I won't. I just want to see the difference. That's the beauty about the sport. Fresh mullet for me is the number 1. Most of my hookups have been always on mullet, but the bonito has been a game changer as well when they don't take the mullet. There's something about that oil and blood that just revs them all up. Target hooks. What type of hooks do we use for drone fishing? So we got long line hooks, and then we've got these target hooks here. My favourite hook of all time are target hooks. They are by far the best hook to use for drone fishing because I get a better bite rate, but also if I don't want the fish, it minimises foul hooking. So the fisheries, Ministry of Fisheries spent over 100 grand testing this hook out, and that was back in the 90s when Paul Barnes designed this, and it was through the commercial industry. And over tens and tens of thousands of trials, this hook by far minimised foul hooking. Also, Paul designed a little ledger wire that you can see on the side of these hooks. And that little wire stops the hook twisting and swallowing. Because the wire moves in like that, you can't go too far. So that's another benefit about this hook. This is the only hook in New Zealand that has that design. There is no other brand that has that design. So that is the target hook. It is by far the best hook. So it's, they did an interview with Jeff Thomas and Paul about this one. And the amount of fish that people have caught on this little 4-bar row is just absolutely killer. So I'll let you pass that around. Some people might want to have a look at that. So that's called the target hook, and NAS can deal with it.